Hello, do your students talk together in their own language throughout the class? Of course they do, but what can you do about this? Right, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to refer to the student's first language as L1. So if the students are French, if they're speaking in French, that's L1. I'm going to refer to English as L2. So I'm not against students using their own language in class for quick translations, for quick instructions, for classroom management. A quick phrase in the student's own language can keep the lesson moving along. However, I'm against using L1 for all instructions, all translations. I'm against it being a French lesson. So what is a reasonable amount of L1 in class? 1% of the talking? 50%? Never? There's a lot of research to say that if you involve the student's own language in class, it's an advantage. It can facilitate communication, relationship between teachers and students, the learning of English. It can also, if you can speak a little bit of the student's own language, it makes them realise that you can understand them and they can be a bit more respectful. However, if you stand at the whiteboard and if you use the student's own language to translate every word, every concept, you are doing the thinking for them. If you tell them exactly what they should be doing, this creates passive learners. You want cognitive engagement. Have a look here at the definition. You want students to invest a little bit of their brain in every task. You want them to do the work, not you to do the work. So if you push them into thinking for themselves, a little bit of confusion, let them figure out the problem. Don't explain everything step by step in detail. And then you get active learners. Reward and punishment. This is the method that many teachers go to first off. Punishment. I have had a hat in my lessons. When the student speaks their own language in class, they get to wear the hat. I spoke French. And that plays on a little bit of shame and embarrassment. Losing the game. Having to finish the worksheet while other students study. These are all punishments. Whereas rewards, stickers, points. You get a better task. You win points for your team. What's wrong with that, I hear you say? Let's look at what the motivation is. You're using the carrot and the stick philosophy of punishing them when they do something wrong and encouraging them when they do something right. This is the motivation that we want. We want the students to be motivated from the inside. Their natural curiosity and love of learning, their natural enthusiasm. That's intrinsic motivation. If you use too many punishments and rewards, the whole paradigm of the class becomes extrinsic. They're motivated to finish the task quickly, not with any creativity. They're motivated to get points. They want praise. They want grades. Yes, use rewards. Probably don't use punishments, but use them judiciously. Or you could change the whole motivation of your class. The classroom contract, I think this is a very good idea, and you will find a classroom contract, worksheets and lesson plans on the SUL website. Now, the classroom contract is an agreement of rules for both the teacher and the student. It's a negotiation, and you all decide the rules that you follow for the rest of the course. The classroom contract can be stuck up on the wall then, and if any of the rules are broken, you can point it out. It's also a good opportunity to teach these modal verbs, must, mustn't, may, don't have to. And of course, students must speak in English unless the teacher says it's okay. Students may ask for a translation. The classroom contract I would encourage every teacher to do on every course. Controlling your speaking practice. Now, free fluent speaking is always great for students to express themselves, but not in their own language. If they can't express and expand upon their views without speaking their own language, they need to have more controlled practice. The teacher has to supply prompts and students fill in the information gap with the target English language. Now, here's an example of a framework of a conversation that I used to teach my first time in the context of the film The Beach. Now, I supplied the black words and the students filled out the conversation by supplying the red words. Now, they can't use their own language because then they would be speaking the first half of the sentence in English and the second half in French. Another way to use prompts is to use little cards like this. This game is Have you ever? Have you ever seen a ghost? Yes, I have. Where? In a haunted house. Have you ever been to Paris? No, I haven't. Okay, find another student. Have you ever met a celebrity? Yes, I have. Who? Have you ever had a pet? What? I've had a kitten. Students find a partner in the room, they're moving around, they ask the question, they get the answer, they swap cards, they find a new partner. Great to keep the energy levels up, and because the prompts are in English, they must finish the sentences in English. Giving them fixed phrases. Which ice cream would you rather buy? Chocolate or strawberry? I prefer buying strawberry because I prefer the flavour, it's more fresh. You would fold this sheet of paper in half along the vertical line. Students can be sitting facing each other or standing in a line. Draw a dialogue up on the whiteboard. Put the students into pairs and get them performing the dialogue. Hi, can I help you? Yes, I'd like to try a sample. What's that? Once the students get to the bottom of the dialogue, swap roles and keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. When they sound comfortable, start erasing the words one by one. Extending sentences. Give the students some prompts. Some people smoke. Then they throw the dice. If they throw 2, they have to add the word so. Some people smoke, so many shops sell cigarettes. Some people smoke, but they know that it's unhealthy. Some people smoke because it's addictive. You can also extend a story using a dice. Once upon a time there was a knight who loved a princess, but the king wanted a prince to marry his daughter. You can keep this tale going on and on. They won't speak in their own language because the prompts and the conjunctions are in English. L1 free periods. Now, I think if you use this approach, you've already lost control. But if a class will not stop speaking in their own language, then you can say this is an English-only zone for the next 15 minutes. No French to be spoken in class until 12:15. And give them shorter periods and police it very strongly. Okay, if you use this approach, I feel you've already lost control then. Seating and grouping is always a good one. Now, this doesn't get students to speak in their own English per se, but it does facilitate communication. Have a look at some of the pros and cons. I would pause the video here of sitting in clusters. This is my favourite sort of seating plan here. Now, if students are not sitting in straight lines, if they're at 45 degrees to each other, this does facilitate communication, and at least you will get them speaking. Remove the barrier of the desk. if you can. If there's no table, there's nowhere for a student to slump down, to sleep, to hide a smartphone, consider changing the traditional horseshoe configuration of chairs, because essentially this is students just sitting in straight lines, shoulder to shoulder. A lot of communication is body language, gestures and eye contact. If they can't see each other without twisting their neck, you've lost a lot of the communication. Get them moving, increase the energy levels, frequently change partners. Different students have different things to offer, different things to say. It keeps the class on their toes. Group strong and weak students together. Speak to the stronger student first and explain that they'll be a mentor. The strong student's job is to squeeze as much English as possible from the weaker student. Explain that she will be a kind of assistant teacher for you. This gives both students some autonomy in the lesson, which almost always leads to motivation to speak English. It just does. Arrange students in small groups so that they can see the whiteboard but not in straight lines with the teacher front and centre, and be mindful who is sitting at the back. The students that choose to sit at the back are generally the ones that need to sit at the front. Consider using the silent way. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time explaining what the silent way is here. I would urge you to Google it or look on YouTube. There's 2 links below. If you pause the video, type them into your browser. One is teachingenglish.org. The second one, Tim's Planet, it shows a 4-minute segment of me using the silent way. You can use Cuisenaire rods, see the picture above, to represent different words. The teacher doesn't speak at all in the silent way. Oh, up there is your keyword for the video. Please make a note of it. Watermelon. Now see my lesson plan. This was for my Delta experimental lesson module. How I was using Cuisenaire rods to represent verbs, pronouns, conjunctions, and how I elicited the time for the past and the present. Go and look at my video. You'll see how to use the silent way, and students have to speak in English if they use this. Consider Michael Lewis's lexical approach. If you buy the book, The Lexical Approach, it's a very, very dry read. Michael Lewis advocates building up a text or a dialogue using prefabricated phrases called lexical chunks. So instead of building fluency one word at a time, you're doing it one phrase at a time. Now the chunks can be collocation. These are words which just go together. Rain, forest, quintessentially English. Blue sky. Fixed phrases. What's the time, please? Semi-fixed phrases. Have you ever? And you add something else new in. Some of the techniques of teaching the lexical approach are back-chaining. This is choral drilling, but where you start at the back of the phrase rather than the front. So let's take the phrase back-chaining. Ing, 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 ning, ning, aining, aining, chaining, 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 back-chaining, like that. The sandwich technique. This is repeating a phrase in English, then in L1, then English. I don't know. I don't know. Je ne sais pas. I don't know. Dictogloss. I would suggest that you Google that. It's a very, very interesting activity. And information gap. 2 students are given 2 pictures to explain to each other and find the differences. And they will find that in English. Activities like that are great to promote this methodology. Okay, thank you very much for listening.